Let's talk about helping trustees to thrive with some practical ways to boost their impact. You've recruited these brilliant trustees, but now you really do need to pay attention to what's going to help them be useful to you, what's going to help them be effective. So let's just think about what effective trustees are. Effective trustees understand what they're there to do, they understand their role. They aren't too operational. If you've got staff, they're not meddling in the detail. And of course, if you don't have staff, then they're going to need to be operational. They have respect for each other and for any staff and volunteers and beneficiaries. They're prepared, so they read the papers, they come on time. They understand the organisation. It's going to be really hard for them to be good trustees if they don't. They can engage in constructive debate. So the role of a trustee includes actually disagreeing and debating, but of course doing it politely and respectfully. They remember that they've got two ears and one mouth, i.e., they shouldn't talk more than they listen. Listen should outweigh talking many times over. They're curious and keen to learn and don't think they know it all. They ask the right questions, the important strategic questions, and they ask them because they want to know the answer. They're keen to learn. They leave their egos at the door and put the mission of the charity above all else. And they're humble. So they're not all about showing off and doing things loudly, but actually quietly serving the organisation and looking out for both their own weaknesses, but also those of the board and the organisation. And then finally, they speak out. So if there's something that they think isn't right, they say so. So if that's what effective trustees are, what stops trustees being effective? And here are some of the reasons. Trustees not understanding their role. So perhaps they are too operational, but that might be because they don't understand that they shouldn't be. They think they're behaving in the right way. So, for example, trustees who might be very kind of domineering over each other or over staff might think that that is the correct way to behave as a trustee because nobody has told them any different. They've been recruited in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is if they've been recruited without due process, it might be that they haven't got the time or the interest or the skills, knowledge, experience that your organisation needs, which of course stops them being effective. If trustees feel that they can't leave, that can stop them being effective. They feel like they're stuck because perhaps you're not using trustee terms, you're not rolling trustees on and off. They feel that they can't say they just want to go. Sometimes trustees can be genuinely concerned about something, and that can mean that they are repeatedly talking about the same thing, or they're loudly talking about the same thing. And that can be seen as ineffective behaviour, but it might be because they don't feel like anybody's hearing something that they're really concerned about. If trustees just don't care about the charity, that can make them ineffective. It can mean that they don't come, they don't read the papers, they don't really engage in the work. We make it impossible for them to engage. So, for example, if we're sending out board papers half an hour before the board meeting, we can't realistically expect all trustees to have read those papers. And lastly, they have other stuff going on in their lives. So perhaps they are under the cosh at work. Perhaps they or a family member are ill. Perhaps they are at risk of redundancy. And of course, life gets in the way as it does for any human. So, how can we help trustees to be effective? And you'll see now why this is so linked to recruitment. So, first of all, open recruitment is absolutely key, not tapping people on the shoulder. So absolutely maximising your chances of finding the right people with the right skills, knowledge, and experience that's strategically aligned with the ambitions and challenges of your organisation. Trustee induction is absolutely key to helping trustees be effective. So that's your chance to tell trustees what their job is and how they should behave. Ongoing development should be absolutely standard. So reminding trustees of their responsibilities, making sure that people are up to speed with the finances, with the changing environment and so on. Trustee terms. Now, you may have them in your governing document. Perhaps some charities don't. So this means a length of time that a trustee is appointed for. Make sure that you're not just renewing people automatically. That means that There's a chance that trustees who started out useful aren't useful anymore because perhaps what they bring is diverting from what the organisation needs. It might be that they feel stuck and actually they just really would like a chance to step off. Think about developing a trustee code of conduct. So this is something that trustees develop together, and it's essentially standards of behaviour. So we agree to always read the papers, to always behave respectfully, to pay attention to our development and so on. Agree a scheme of delegation. So particularly if you've got staff. So this is a document which outlines who has responsibility for what. So for example, if you've got a chief executive, how much can they spend? Does it need to be in the budget? What are the different levels of responsibility? Develop and assess your trustees against your strategy and your KPIs. And make sure that you're spending time with the board beyond board meetings, especially in this world where many meetings are now online. Actually knowing each other a little can massively help with good governance. Engage your trustees with the charities work. That's so that they can understand the organisation, but it also keeps that critical line between the work that they're doing on the board and what the charity is for, what its impact is. We really need to feel that as trustees. And then lastly, help them assess themselves. So that might be an external board review. It might be some self-service tools like the DSC governance app, for example. Really help them think about, are we doing a good job here?